It's too late now.
Show them off.
Really?
Little Catholics.
Well, hold on, they're probably still on.
Oh, it's true.
Okay, guys, we got 2 minutes. They should be in here in about 2 minutes.
Don't forget
Make sure. I'm going to try not to.
Just really, Sean, just whenever. I just want to be seen. You know the cameras were on. I'm just
All right, guys, looks like they have just lost the feed from that press conference. That press conference scheduled to start in about a minute. Want to go ahead and show you some pictures from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, of the flooding out there. We will be hearing from the governor of Louisiana along with FEMA. Stand by while we work to get that feed from the press conference back for you guys.
sure that's good.
It's tilting.
Okay, here we go.
I wore my formal fly attire.
What you been up to?
My house got 19 inches.
Oh.
Yeah. I came from
Where do you live?
Sherwood Forest. I abut to Jones Creek.
So 19 inches is that above or below the power receptacles?
I didn't look.
Because that makes a difference as
It
to
does.
what you're going to have to
It
face.
does. It does.
Well, God bless you.
Probably, yeah.
We'll wait on NPR.
Thank you.
Y'all ready? Good morning, and I want to thank you for being here. And I want to also thank FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate for coming to Baton Rouge to be with us this morning. It makes a world difference when the federal, state, and local partners are all in the same room face-to-face and talking. And this is certainly a critical time for all of us in South Louisiana. This morning at the press conference, I'm going to speak, followed by Administrator Fugate. And the individuals behind me will be available, because once you start to ask questions, if whoever the best person is to respond to your questions, that's who's going to come forward and answer the question. I want you to know that the administrator and I just met, and we got an update on the response, and we are also going to meet again very shortly to discuss not only how we wrap up the response phase, which we're nowhere close to having that finished, but what we need to do for the remainder of the response, and then transition into the recovery as well. And the recovery itself is multidimensional, with near-term things that we have to do, midterm, and then long-term. I want to remind everybody, this is a historic flooding event, and when you have a storm that is unnamed, it wasn't a tropical storm, it wasn't a hurricane. A lot of times people underestimate the impacts that it would have, but this is historic, it's unprecedented, and we are seeing unprecedented flood levels as the waters move south. As you know, Sunday I requested a major disaster declaration from the federal government for 21 parishes. The president was very quick, and I want to thank him for approving the first 4 parishes that were requested, and those parishes were East Baton Rouge, Tangipahoa Parish, Livingston, and St. Helena. I am happy to say that today 8 additional parishes have been added to that major disaster declaration. Those 8 parishes are Acadia, Ascension, East Feliciana, Iberia, Lafayette, Point Capee, St. Landry, and Vermilion. We have been traveling extensively over the last several days with FEMA individuals, Jerry Stoller from FEMA Region 6, and then yesterday Tony Robinson, who is the administrator there at Region 6, collecting information and data on the damage. I am confident that more parishes are going to be added to the list of currently declared parishes as we move forward, and we're working around the clock to make sure that every available resource that would help us to respond and to recover will be available to the people of Louisiana. I want everyone who's been impacted by this storm, regardless of where they live and whether they live in a parish that has been added to the declaration list, to register for disaster assistance. That is extremely important. Even if you are not in a parish that has been declared, when your parish is declared, that registration will roll over. You will not have to do it again. And I want everyone, and I'm going to give you some information on that, and I want everyone out there to understand nobody has been forgotten. This is a very difficult situation to get response out as quickly as we would like to. We fully understand that now that the sun is out, it's hot. We still have about 34,000 meters without electricity. That's customers, so those are homes or businesses. We understand that there's still a lot of people who are suffering, and those people who have been evacuated, they're not entirely comfortable in their circumstances either, although we're doing our dead level best at the shelters to make sure that we're taking care of them. let me get back to the registration for disaster assistance. I'm asking everybody out there who's been impacted by this storm, if you haven't done it yet, please register for disaster assistance at disasterassistance.gov online. I will say again, disasterassistance.gov, or you can call 1-800-621-FEMA. That's 1-800-621-3362. So far, we've had right at 40,000 individuals register for disaster assistance in this manner, and we're asking that individuals continue to do that. It is important to remember, FEMA never charges for services that they deliver. If someone shows up at your house, if someone contacts you and says they're a FEMA representative and they've got some assistance for you, but they're asking you to pull out your wallet or your checkbook or your credit card, tell them no thanks. That's not the way FEMA operates. And while I'm on that topic, I want to alert everyone that there are folks who are unscrupulous. They will come in and try to take advantage of folks, especially elderly people, by promising them that they will, for some amount of money, make repairs or render some sort of assistance. Please be very, very careful that you are not a victim of a scam. And if you think that any of that has taken place, please contact the Louisiana Attorney General's office. So while we're beginning to enter recovery mode, especially on the west side of the Mississippi River and on the north side of the Florida parishes on the east side of the Mississippi River, I want everyone to understand that we are still very much in an emergency search and rescue response mode for much of the Florida parishes. Saving life is the most important priority that we have. We're going to dedicate every available resource to that effort until it's no longer required. I would like to update the shelter numbers. Last night, we sheltered 8,098 individuals. And this number is changing rapidly. Some people are able to move out of the shelters and into their homes, or out of their shelters and into the home of family and friends. But other people are being moved out of their homes and coming to our shelters. So this is going to change. We have rescued local first responders, state agencies, and certainly just individuals being good neighbors, have rescued well over 20,000 people thus far across Louisiana, and well over 1,000 pets. I am sad to tell you that I have to update the fatality number. We have 8 confirmed fatalities that were storm related. We have right at 40,000 homes that have been impacted to varying degrees thus far with the flood waters. I'm going to ask for everyone's continued patience, and I'm going to ask everyone to join their prayers to mine that the suffering of our people will be quickly diminished, and that we will be able to deliver to them the assistance they need in a timely manner. As I said, nobody is going to be forgotten. We're going to work around the clock, and we're going to do everything humanly possible to render aid. And with that in mind, I am proud to be followed by Administrator Fugate, who is going to share some information with you on the response that we're going to be able to deliver now with FEMA based upon the expanded declaration. And so, Administrator Fugate, again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Governor. It seems like we were here this spring talking about another flood with a lot of the similar issues. This one's bigger. It's impacted more people. And just like before, the governor's team's been leading the charge for the response, and FEMA's supporting and getting ready to support recovery. As the governor said, President Obama, based upon a verbal request, we were not doing any damage assessments. We just basically took the information we had. President Obama immediately declared the major disaster area for Louisiana. We turned on a couple of parishes we knew were hard hit, and we're adding to that list as soon as we can get any verifying information, and we're not going in doing house counts. We're just wanting to make sure that we're getting everything the governor's asked for. We will be adding those parishes. But as the governor said, do not wait until the parishes are added. You go ahead and register. If you've had flood damage, particularly if you didn't have flood insurance, register. If you had flood insurance and you're having any issues with your claim, also call us at the FEMA registration number, 1-800-621-FEMA, or disasterassistance.gov. We want to get that address for you. Our primary goal right now is, again, supporting the governor's priorities. really focused on, we got a lot of people in shelters, got a lot of people who may not be able to get back into their homes. So what will be the next step for temporary housing? And then the long-term goals the governor has, getting schools open, getting businesses back in operation, and looking at long-term housing. We still had folks here from the previous flood. We were able to jumpstart that response with those folks, but we're literally bringing in thousands of people across the country to support this. And, you know, you had the Olympics, you got the election. If you looked at the national news, you're probably on the third or fourth page. FEMA understands this is a very large disaster impacting tens of thousands of people. Irregardless of what it may be getting on the national coverage, we know this has been a significant impact here in Louisiana, and our commitment and the President's commitment to support the governor's team through a full recovery. And it's going to be a hard one, as the governor said. But just because national media maybe hasn't been picking up on all of this, making this the headlines, we think it is the headline disaster that we're supporting right now. Governor.
Thank you very much, Administrator. And with that, we're going to take a few questions. And again, if you have a question that you know is best addressed to one of the individuals behind me, go ahead and let us know that, and we'll bring them up. Yes, ma'am.
Question for you, Deidre Wilson, Local 33 News, Fox 44. Hope your families are okay. Since the state is in an economic crisis, how will it manage to pay for the damage and recovery efforts? And because of this, do you plan on calling a special session?
I don't have plans right now to call a special session. As you know, we were managing our cash flow very carefully before this happened. I can tell you that the most positive news came with the declaration and the expanded declaration, because we are now have available to us a cost sharing where 75 cents on the dollar for most of what we're going to be doing with respect to this storm will be borne by the federal government. We have a 25% obligation on that. But some of the things that we're going to be making available for the people of Louisiana will result in us having an obligation to pay our share, but it will be initially paid in full by FEMA, and then FEMA will bill us. And so that the good news is that won't immediately have an impact on our ability to go forward. But we are not going to allow, and this is what I want everyone to understand, the fiscal condition of the state is not going to limit what we do to make sure that people get the assistance that they need, both in the response and then in the recovery phase. That is my commitment to the people of Louisiana.
Governor, after
Yes.
Katrina, there was a door-to-door search for flood victims, but that was a relatively contained area compared to the rural nature of many of the areas that have been impacted by this flood. Strategically, have you started discussing with the National Guard and local law enforcement how you're going to be able to do that?
Well, Sue, that's a good question. We actually are starting that effort today in Livingston Parish and in Ascension Parish. The search and rescue protocol that was used previously was developed by the Fire Marshal's Office and Fire Marshal Butch Browning with a number of other individuals from different agencies are going to start that process today. We are in the parishes where this is going to be most needed, and making sure that we are coordinating these efforts directly with the Offices of Emergency Preparedness there and integrating their officers as well. And it's not just residences. In this case, we have a lot of automobiles that are not where they're supposed to be, and they've been washed off of roadways, and we're going to have to search and mark each of those automobiles, and we pray that we don't find any motorists deceased in those automobiles. That is starting today. It is going to be difficult because of the reasons that you mentioned, but we also have a lot of pockets of water that make it very difficult to in a timely way, get into these places and affect these searches. But we're not going to wait for the water to go down. It's just going to take us longer to get it done, and we are engaging in that today.
Governor, on
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
the same issue, do you have a central location where people can call in if they are missing people? And do you have any estimates on how many people might be missing at this point?
Well, we don't know how many people are missing. We know that communications is tough between family members who are searching for those who are in shelters, and sometimes for those people in shelters to be able to contact their family members elsewhere. I don't know that we have a good handle on the number of people who are missing. And when you say missing, for the vast majority of cases, the communication is just not going to be there. Those people, for the most part, are going to be safe and sound somewhere. But in terms of what number they should call, do we have anybody behind me with that number? And if we don't, well, Red Cross, I'm sorry, if you would call the Red Cross, and what's your number?
1-800-RED-CROSS.
That's easy to remember, people. 1-800-RED-CROSS is the number to call.
And there's a Safe and Well page on the Red Cross website.
And the Red Cross operates a website with a Safe and Well page on it. And so those are the places that one should go if they are searching for a family member or a loved one.
Governor, how are the first responders holding up?
Well, first of all, they're absolute heroes, and they're holding up as well as can be expected. It's at about this point in any prolonged disaster recovery effort, or I should say response effort, that battle fatigue does start to set in. And but I am confident that the people who are out there running the parish efforts, the folks here working on behalf of the state, that they're doing a great job, and the communications between them and us has been spectacular. At this point, I don't know of any assistance that has been asked for by any of the local first responders and offices of emergency preparedness that hasn't been quickly given to them. But like any prolonged operation, you do have to have time to rest, just so that you can continue to function and make good decisions. And we are seeing the need for that down at the local level especially. But the good news is that they are doing that. The people that I'm talking to are getting now between 4 and 6 hours worth of sleep. And that really is critically important. There's only so long you can go without that. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
There was some talk about temporary housing. I was just curious if it's too early to tell, or will we see something like the trailers at Katrina Cottage as well?
Well, it is too early to know exactly what it's going to look like, because we have to take into consideration this particular group of storm victims and what their needs are going to be. They're not all going to be the same. Which percentage of people have damage to their homes that will be relatively quick and easy to remedy so that they can move back in? Which percentage are going to have more extensive damage? And then within those groups, what are their abilities to pay? And do they have insurance? And so there's a lot of information, but FEMA knows how to do this, and they're going to have teams in our shelters and in our communities talking to individuals who are victims to figure out exactly what this population looks like, so that we can fashion a plan both in the near, the mid, and the long term. I shouldn't say both, in the near, the midterm, and the long term, to make sure that our strategy is right. But I'd ask the administrator to be more specific than that.
Again, all options are on the table. First thing is there rental properties. Again, some areas that's going to make sense, other areas it won't. Does it make sense to do temporary repairs to get people back in their home and then get power, because we know that's the best solution long term? We'll do that. If we need to bring in any type of temporary housing units, first thing is they're better than they've ever been. They're all HUD approved. One of the things we've done, the additional step, is for those that may need universal access trailers, we now have them fire sprinkled. So we actually are above the HUD standards. We have much improved models. So if that is a requirement, this is not the FEMA travel trailers. These are HUD approved. They all meet the HUD standards. In many cases, our structures actually exceed HUD standards. But as the governor said, it will be based upon the needs. And the fastest response in many cases will be make emergency repairs at home, get them back in it. In other cases, it's get them a rental property, because it's going to take longer.
Along those lines.
For the administrator, Melinda?
No, it's for you.
Okay. By the way, one of the things that we need to focus on is getting the electricity back on in these homes as quickly as possible, so that air conditioners can be turned on to minimize any mold impact. But electricity can't be turned on until we know the homes are safe, and so there's an awful lot involved here, and we've got a lot of work to do, and that's why I'm glad that we have state and federal and local partners working together. Melinda?
The insurance commissioner has suggested that they know there are very few homes that have flood insurance in a lot of these areas. I mean, it's a real low number. Are you concerned about people's ability to actually afford, even with the traditional FEMA assistance, what they will need to pay to rebuild their houses? I mean, obviously in Katrina we had to have a separate program that paid for that.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm concerned, and the list of concerns that I have right now are much longer than we can ever go through. But that is a concern. But one thing that everybody should understand is that there is assistance available for people whose homes have been damaged by floodwaters if they did not live in a flood zone and weren't required to have flood insurance. They can be reimbursed up to, or the repairs that can be covered through that assistance are just shy of $33,000. Now, I believe that it is also true that if they lived in a flood zone and that particular home has never received federal assistance, that they can also receive assistance for just shy of $33,000, but that's a one-time thing. And we don't believe that many of the homes that are impacted in this flooding event were impacted previously by the other storms, and so that should be an available source of assistance for a large group of people. While that amount of assistance is just shy of $33,000, it is not automatically $33,000. It is whatever the damage is up to that amount. And I can tell you that in past flood events, the average check amount was $7,500. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that that's going to be the average here because every storm is different, but that's the way this works. And if I just said something that was incorrect.
No, Governor, you could work for FEMA. That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the challenges after Katrina was, as people entered the recovery phase, was ripping out off sheetrock, putting things on the side of the road, piles of debris, and then FEMA assisted or didn't assist sometimes in collecting all of that. And we are in some of people want to recover immediately, so.
Beth, we are going to have a meeting as soon as this press conference is over. One of the things we're going to talk about will be debris and debris removal. And we've got all of the agencies who have a role to play in that will be in this meeting. But you bring up another point. We are going to need volunteers to come and help individuals to muck out their homes, to get the mud out, to get wet drywall removed, to get carpets and ruined flooring out, so that individuals will be able to get back in their homes as quickly as possible and be able to live there, because that's where they want to be, and in many cases that's the cheapest alternative for us to provide assistance, but they're going to need help. Not everybody is able to do this on their own. Not everybody has friends and family members who are able to assist them. And so going forward, and by the way, we have had a tremendous response with respect to volunteers. And it's across the whole gamut. If you go to the shelters, for example, you're going to see many volunteers. But I am asking for organized groups, both in Louisiana and outside of Louisiana, and a lot of times the faith-based community really steps up to organize and come in at the appropriate time, not just yet, but at the appropriate time, and to volunteer to help these people to get back in their homes. And you can do that by contacting the Lieutenant Governor's office. He is organizing, and I'm so glad that Billy Nungesser is here with me today, and he's been with me throughout, and we traveled yesterday, and we delivered this message to the parishes that we visited. But I'm going to ask him to come forward and explain how volunteer groups, whether you're individuals or groups, can register with his office and then be directed to where they're needed, so that there's not unnecessary delays, and that we can quickly and get them in to where they can render the assistance that they're trying to render. Billy?
Thank you, Governor. It's volunteerlouisiana.gov. They can sign up, and we'll work with AmeriCorps as well. And as the Governor mentioned, the limited money that may be available if they didn't have flood insurance, these teams will also be available after we clean out the homes to help many of the people without flood insurance rebuild, put those materials back in the house as well. Thank you.
Governor, you spoke earlier about the vehicles that have been submerged. One of the problems that Baton Rouge is having, and many people are having, is that they can't get to work because their cars have been damaged. Has there been any discussion of setting up something a la LA Swift that we had post-Katrina that will transport folks that live in, say, Denham Springs back into Baton Rouge and vice versa, so that they can at least have that normalcy and that income of coming back to work?
I don't recall that I have been present in any discussions where that was the subject of those discussions, but you raise a good point, and we will start taking a look at that. We do know that one of the things that we were required to do in previous storms where you had widespread flooding is that through the Office of Motor Vehicles and the Louisiana State Police, we inventoried all of those flooded vehicles by VIN number, and we had a database where they were entered into so that they could not then be sold without being disclosed as being basically a salvage vehicle, because that's incredibly important, and so we likely will have to do that again.
Last question. Governor, I realize you don't have an economic number in terms of what the impact is right now, but is there a way that you can just describe the scope of this and what kind of a hit it is for you?
Well, it's huge, but I don't really like to dwell on the economic impact in terms of the state treasury. The toll right now is on people, and that's where we're focused. We're going to make the money take care of itself. We're going to make the best possible decisions going forward. We're going to rely on the federal government to the maximum extent possible, which is why we're glad that additional parishes have been added, and added for the full range of assistance that's available. And look, we have a Commissioner of Administration, a Secretary of the Department of Revenue. We are monitoring this situation very closely. But I don't want anybody out there thinking that the fiscal situation in our state, which has been well publicized for months now, is going to limit in any way what we're going to do going forward to rescue people and to get them back in their homes and to take care of them as best as we possibly can between now and then. In a couple of weeks, you're going to hear from me and Jay Darden about what we believe the impacts have been and will continue to be, and whether any additional steps will be necessary. Thank all of you very much. I appreciate you being here.
Can I get one question about looting? We got confirmed reports about looting. What do you want to say to folks out there whose homes are underwater and now people are starting to do this?
I'm going to tell them what their mama told them a long time ago, that they need to be good citizens, and we need to be good neighbors to one another, and we're not going to tolerate that. And in fact, we are taking appropriate steps now to make sure that every parish with widespread damage is going to have a curfew tonight to aid law enforcement to make sure that sort of activity is minimized. But there's no excuse for that. And it's marring what has been a tremendous response by the people of Louisiana taking care of their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking that last question.
That was 3 of your questions.
I know.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on this press conference out of Louisiana. Press conference just wrapped up out of Louisiana. Here is a look at some of that flooding in Baton Rouge.
Did they really?
All right, guys, we're going to cut away from this Baton Rouge flooding
talking about this mugshot. You're like, do I know that?
and instead show you video of activity of one of the violent scenes in Milwaukee over the weekend, the violent aftermath.
Out of making the phone call.
right, guys, we're going to cut out of this feed out of Milwaukee and take you now live to West Philadelphia, Hillary Clinton event just about to start.
Like that's what you want to do.
I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to rock the boat and make a mess. So I said quietly, agreed politely. I guess that I forgot I had a choice. I let you push me past the breaking point. I stood for nothing, so I fell for everything. You held me down, but I got up, already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake the ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, the fighter, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar. You're gonna hear me roar. Now I'm floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. I earned my stripes. I went from zero to my own hero. You held me down, but I got up, already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake the ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, the fighter, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar. You're gonna hear me You're gonna hear me roar. I got the eye of the tiger, fire, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me You're gonna hear me You're gonna hear me roar.
This one goes out to the man who minds for miracles. This one goes out to the ones in need. This one goes out to the sinner and the cynical. This ain't about no apology. This road was paid by the hopeless and the hungry. This road was paid by the winds of change. Walking beside the guilty and the innocent. How will you raise your hand when they call your name? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We weren't born to follow. Come on and get up off your knees. When life is a bitter pill to swallow, you got Now look at me again. See, we're not so different. Look around. What do you see? We're throwing things outside our window. We don't care to keep it clean. I had a dream. Beauty was only skin deep. And if we all just believe, love is all we need. Nothing else can set you free. Do you remember at all? People walking hand in hand. Can we feel that love again? Can you imagine it all? If we all could get along, and we all could sing this song together. Singing, oh, in this together. All in this together.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your mayor, Jim Kaine.
Thank you very much for being here today in Great West Philadelphia. Great neighborhood. Back at the Democratic National Convention, I told you a story about Irish Catholic and the way they were treated when they first came here in the 1840s. But I want to tell you another Philadelphia story that happened in 1871. There was a young man named Octavius Cato who was fighting for civil rights and for accommodation rights in the city of Philadelphia. On October 10th, 1871, he was going to the polls to bring African-American people to vote, and he was cowardly shot in the back for his efforts. Ever since our country started, it's been an effort and a struggle to get people the full rights of what that Constitution means, and the struggle's not over. But in the 1960s, the 1950s and 60s, men and women across this country, down south, up north, fought off dogs, fought off water cannons, fought off the police, fought off billy clubs, fought off racists that didn't want them to vote. But they persisted, and they overcame. Now, 2016, we're not asking anybody to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're not asking anybody to do that. We're asking you to register, get up off your couch, go to the school, go to the rec center, because if you don't, you disrespect the memory of every one of those folks that went before us. And in 2016, the most important election in this country's history, we have to stop this madman. And everybody in this room, in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, the Philadelphia area, can be the difference in this election if we do what we're supposed to do, register and vote. And I won't make you wait for Hillary any longer.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Congressman Bob Brady and the next President of the United States, Hillary Clinton!
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby. If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far. Don't worry, baby, just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, oh baby, there ain't no mountain.
That's not good enough! That's not good enough!
Ain't no
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. You know, there's been a lot of trash talk about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the city of Philadelphia. Republicans are trash talking, but what do? We act. How do we act? We work. We need to get our registrations done. We need to get our neighbors to register. We need to get our friends to register. We need everybody to register to vote in November so we can get the next President of the United States, whose name is, who is that? Hillary! Hillary! I can't hear you over there. Hillary! 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 How about over here? How about you guys? my pleasure to introduce to you the next President of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton.
Hello, Philadelphia! Oh, wow, I am, thank you so much. I am so excited to be back in the city that hosted the greatest convention. I can't tell you, as I've been traveling across the country, how many people have said to me how much they loved being in Philadelphia. And believe it or not, there are some people who hadn't been to Philadelphia before the convention, and they left loving this city, and I can't thank all of you enough for all the hospitality. I want to thank my longtime friend, Congressman Bob Brady. Thanks to Mayor Jim Kaine, State Senator Vincent Hughes, State Representative Dwight Evans, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, City Council President Darrell Clark, a longtime friend of mine, former City Councilwoman Marion Tosco, and all those who spoke in the pre-program, and to everybody gathered here. It is exciting to be back, and as you heard, we want you all to register to vote. We have places to register because we don't want you on the sidelines come November. This is the most consequential election. The stakes could not be higher. And we want everybody in Philadelphia, everybody across Pennsylvania, to be part of a great victory in November, and then the future that we're going to build together. Have any of you been watching the Olympics? Well, I got to tell you, I am a big Olympics fan. Those athletes, what they give up, the sacrifice, the work. I understand that Philadelphia's own Nia Ali just made the first round heat in the 100-meter hurdles today. But Team USA is showing the world what this country stands for. I am proud of our team there, and I'm proud of the incredible teamwork that they show. I was thinking the other day, when Donald Trump speaks, he speaks about fear. He speaks about such negativity and such pessimism. And then I watch the Olympics, and it's exactly the opposite. You have young people going out doing their best every day to get prepared to compete. And that's what we're going to do in America. There is nothing we can't do if we put our minds to it. I was up in Scranton yesterday with Vice President Joe Biden. And we had a great day. Both Joe and I have roots in Scranton, so we saw a lot of people that we're related to, and a lot of people who tell us we're related to them. But it just reminded me of how lucky we are to be part of a country that has provided so much opportunity. It's not perfect, we know that, but there is no place that has provided more opportunity. To my grandfather, who came here as a young immigrant, worked in a factory, created a great life for his family, and then my dad, who was a small businessman in Chicago, worked hard. And I want that story to be true for every American family. And that is the principal motivation that I have in this campaign. People say to me all the time, I mean, how do you do it? They see me on TV, I'm in one state, then I'm in another state, then I'm in another state. And I'm lucky I can sleep on planes and in cars, so that helps. But what it's really all about is getting up every day and being motivated to make sure that every person in this crowd and every person in this Commonwealth and every person in this country has the same chance to live up to your dreams, the same opportunities that previous generations of Americans enjoyed. And that's why we're going to keep talking about what kind of jobs we're going to create. I met the principal of this beautiful school a little earlier. And I met two of her students who are about to graduate right there. Thank you both. Young man is going into the Navy. Congratulations, we need you. Young woman wants to be a surgeon. Thank you, we need you. I met another young woman. I met another young woman who told me she wanted to be a surgeon, and people tell her, oh, she can't be a surgeon. I don't remember where she went, this young woman. But don't you believe it. Don't you believe it. We're going to lift people up. We're going to help every single person in America live up to those dreams. And we're going to do it by creating more good jobs, jobs in infrastructure, jobs in advanced manufacturing, jobs in clean energy. We're going to do it by investing in education, from early childhood education all the way into lifelong learning. I want to thank the mayor again for his commitment to early childhood education. I want to thank the superintendent who I met earlier, Superintendent Height, for his commitment to early childhood education. And I particularly want to thank all the teachers and educators in the audience who make dreams come true. So I know what we can do together. But how are we going to pay for it? Well, I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going where the money is. We're going after the super wealthy. We're going after the corporations. We're going after Wall Street so they pay their fair share. That's why I was surprised when Donald Trump came out and talked about the economy, because actually he would give trillions of dollars in more tax breaks to the wealthy. He wants a new tax loophole that we call the Trump loophole that would actually help him and everybody else who is really wealthy to cut their tax rate in half on a lot of their income. He wants to eliminate the estate tax, which does nothing for 99.8% of all Americans. But, you know, if Trump is as wealthy as he claims to be, it would save his family $4 billion. Now, I got to tell you, I could find a much better use for that $4 billion. Early childhood, helping our veterans, helping our law enforcement do what they need to do, helping more people get the job training and the skills training. In fact, we could hire 95,000 public school teachers for $4 billion. We could actually double health care for our veterans for $4 billion. And we could invest in more infrastructure, affordable housing, and small businesses for $4 billion right here in Pennsylvania. So I think we know what we need to do. The question is whether we will do it, and that all comes down to who shows up and votes. That's why we have been registering voters in our campaign. We launched a drive to register 3 million voters and get those voters to commit to vote, because it doesn't do you any good if you register and you don't show up, right? So we've got people waving over there. They've got their voter registration forms for you. And we want you to be part of this. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to register yourself, and I'm asking you to ask everybody you know to register. Because when we do that, we make a commitment that we care about what's going to happen in this election. And we also care about winning back the Senate, making the Senate Democratic again. And trying to pick up some more Democrats in the House of Representatives. That will help too. You see, I have this old-fashioned idea, looking at our last two Democratic presidents, President Obama and a guy named Clinton, that we got a lot done for America when they were in office, right? You know, when I hear folks criticizing President Obama, I'm thinking, well, what don't they like? They don't like the fact that he helped us save the economy from the worst financial crash since the 1930s. They don't like the fact we now have 20 million more people who have access to affordable health care. They don't like the fact that his intervention saved the auto industry and imposed the toughest new rules on Wall Street. What don't they like? And when I hear people criticize Bill, I think, what don't they like? The peace or the prosperity? I mean, it's kind of hard to know. So don't be complacent, my friends, because even though we're doing fine right now, I'm not taking anybody anywhere for granted. We're going to work hard these next 85 days, and I can't do it without your help. Now, we have packets for you at the doors, so you can also canvass. Meet your neighbors, canvass across West Philly after this event. This evening, we're opening our Southwest Philly office on 52nd and Cedar. Stop by. The deadline for registering is October the 11th. So we have work to do, but here's what I promise you. I promise you that we're going to go not only as hard as we can to win this election, but then to go as hard as we can to achieve the results that the country needs. And that's why I talk specifically about what I want to do. I know that some people make fun of me. They say, oh, she has all these plans, and you could go to my website and read my plans. But I'll tell you know why I do that? Because I want you to know what I'm going to try to do so that you can both help me and hold me accountable for doing what I told you I want to do. We want to create millions of new good jobs and infrastructure because our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our ports, our airports are falling apart. Our water systems, our sewer systems are falling apart. And we also need a new modern electric grid to be able to take and distribute all the clean renewable energy that we're going to be producing. And when people say to me, well, we can't bring manufacturing back to the United States, I say, but I've seen it. I have seen what we can do. I have been in plants in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, across America, who are doing just that. And when I meet the people, there is such pride and dignity. When I was in Johnstown Wire Technologies on our bus trip with Tim Kaine, and I met people working there, I met a young Marine veteran. He's been there now for a couple of years. He is as proud as he can be because he's making something that really makes a difference and that is exported around the world from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So, don't tell me we can't make things. I know we can. I was in a plant outside of Detroit last week. It used to be an auto supply plant. And then in 2000, it was started in 1955 by the grandfather of the guy who's the chair of their board now. In 1955, they started, they were making auto parts. Then in 2000, their main customer, one of the automakers, moved a lot of their production. Now, they could have been really just broken by that. They could have said, you know what, we got to close up shop. But that's not what they did. They were so determined to keep that business going. So they said, what skills do we have? What can we do now? And they got into the aerospace business. So there I saw the nose cone of a F-35. There I saw the parts they're making for NASA for the rocket that will take astronauts on the manned mission to Mars in Warren, Michigan, a place that used to make auto parts, which is now literally making rocket parts. And you know what I thought? I thought, wait a minute, this could have been one of those sort of, poor me stories. We can't do it, we can't compete, but instead people got up and said, yes, we can, and yes, they did, right? And I started looking at the machines that they were using. A lot of precision machines made in Germany, made in Japan, made in Italy. And I said to the workers there, could we make those machines? They said, you bet we could. If we have the right partnership between our government and manufacturing, we can have a renaissance in manufacturing and jobs that will give people good livings and the pride and dignity of work. And here's something we don't say often enough. More than half of the jobs that are predicted for 2020 are not going to require a 4-year college degree. So I want to make college affordable for everybody, and we're going to get that done. I want to help you refinance and pay down your student debt if you already have that. But I also want to make sure community college is free and we have more technical education back in our high schools. I want us to have more apprenticeships so that more young people get the skills that they can use to fill those jobs in 2020. So I am optimistic. And another big area where I'm optimistic is clean renewable energy, where we're going to be the 21st century clean energy superpower. Not China, not Germany, the United States of America. So I know we can do this. We got ourselves out of the worst financial crash. We're standing. Now we're going to start running again. And we are particularly going to focus on young people who have been left out of education and the job market, and middle-aged and older people who have lost jobs and need new skills to be able to compete and win again in the job market. And while we're doing that, we're going to start at the very beginning with early childhood education, universal pre-kindergarten, because we are stronger together and we need all of our people to feel that they've got a shot. Even Abraham Lincoln talked about how important it was to give every American a fair shot in the race of life. That's what we've got to get back to. It's just wrong that some people do well and other people feel like they're never going to catch up. So I want to be a president for not only Democrats, but Republicans and independents too. I want to be a president for the struggling, the striving, and the successful. I want to be a president for those who voted for me and those who don't vote for me, because we are all in this together. So there's a lot we can do on the economy. There's a lot we can do on education. There's a lot we can do on health care. We are going to build on the Affordable Care Act, and we're going to get the costs of premiums, co-pays, and deductibles down, and we are going to tackle the high cost of prescription drugs. And we are going to do more to help people deal with mental health and addiction problems. I probably have more people talking to me about mental health and addiction than nearly anything else. You know, folks talk about the economy, they talk about education, but when it gets really personal, you know, I'm in a coffee shop or talking to folks on a line here and somebody takes my hand and pulls me closer. What they talk to me about is mental health and addiction. And shame on us if we don't do more to help people who are suffering and families who are in pain because of that. And we are going to have a national security and foreign policy that America can be proud of. We are going to lead the world in accordance with our values, in pursuance of our interests, and in furtherance of our security, along with our friends and allies. It just absolutely bewilders me when I hear Donald Trump try to talk about national security. It's not just, as Joe Biden says, it's not just he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's bad enough. But what he often says hurts us. It sends the wrong message to friend and foe alike in the world. And we are living in a complex world, one where we need steadiness, where we've got to have a real sense of how we're going to get to where we want to go to help as many people, to keep our country safe, but to do it with the kind of bigness, the kind of confidence that really marks America at our best. You know, sometimes when I hear Trump talking about how we should all be so afraid all the time, and then I find a few minutes to watch the Olympics, I think, my goodness, you know, when you go out and compete, not everybody can win, but you got to do your best. And can you imagine, you know, Michael Phelps or Simone Biles or all these other great American athletes in the locker room saying, well, I don't know, I'm too afraid to go out and compete. No, they get out there, they compete, they do their best, they demonstrate the kind of spirit that we want from all Americans. And then finally, I think we have to defend the advances in rights that we have made here in America. And I am very proud of our young people. This is the most tolerant and generous generation that we've ever seen in America. And yes, we are going to defend human rights and civil rights.
All right, guys, we're going to cut into this Hillary Clinton event in Philadelphia. We'll bring you back to this momentarily, but we do have a live SWAT situation happening right now in Florence, Arizona. So this is what we know right now. Basically, a woman texted her son saying that her boyfriend was threatening her. Deputies arrived at this home in Florence and found a stolen vehicle in the driveway. That car was stolen out of Gilbert, and authorities believe that the suspect was driving that car. Now the girlfriend, the woman, exited the residence with two kids, ages 11 and 12, and told deputies the boyfriend was inside with guns, threatening her with a handgun, and said that he would not be taken alive by law enforcement. Now the suspect is a registered sex offender wanted for previous violation of sex offender registry laws, as well as threats and harassment and violating a restraining order. At this time, authorities had no contact with the suspect. That was the time of the press release. However, he was seen inside the residence by deputies at about 2 a.m. and at 5:30 he contacted his girlfriend via cell phone and said he was going to kill deputies prior to the conclusion of this standoff. Now, the scene is still active. Our man barricaded inside his home for over 10 hours now in Florence, Arizona. The man is a 49-year-old male. All right, guys, for those of you just joining us, want to give you guys a recap as to what you're looking at. So at 12:30, Pinal County deputies responded at the request of Mesa police to check on the welfare of a woman who had texted her son that her boyfriend was threatening her. Now, her son was in Mesa. Deputies arrived and found a stolen vehicle in the front of this residence. That car was stolen out of Gilbert, and authorities believe that the vehicle was driven by the suspect. Now, the woman exited the home with 2 children, ages 11 and 12, and told deputies that her boyfriend was inside with guns, threatening her with a handgun, and said that he would not be taken alive by law enforcement. Now, the suspect himself is a registered sex offender wanted for previous violations of sex offender registry laws, as well as threatening and harassment and violating a restraining order. Now, at the time of this press release from authorities in Pinal County, they had had no contact with the suspect. However, the suspect was seen inside the residence by deputies at around 2 this morning, and then at 5:30 in the morning, he had contacted his girlfriend via cell phone and said that he was going to kill the deputies prior to the conclusion of the incident. Now, the scene is still active. We are working to get you guys more information from the scene. I'm checking in with our assignment editor to find out what is going on. She's saying that the scene may be wrapped up. She's working to find out the details as to how the situation ended. So the situation has officially ended now, and we're working to get you guys information from Pinal County Sheriff's Department. All right, guys, we're losing this feed from that SWAT situation in Florence. Want to go ahead and take you now to North Carolina, Fayetteville, where Senator Tim Kaine is holding a campaign event.
Sometimes winning, sometimes losing, but never backing down, never backing away, never giving up, always pushing forward to try to lighten the burden and measure our society's success by the success of our families and kids. So of course I was proud to say yes when she asked me. But there was another reason I was proud to say yes, or maybe enthusiastic with an exclamation point. And I bet everybody out here will get exactly what I'm talking about. My mom was with me on stage. I'm going to see if I can do this. My mom was with me on stage. She's 81. Balloons were falling everywhere. And in the middle of that, after Hillary accepted the nomination, we were there together. My mom said, "This is the best night of my life." Now, some of that was because of me. I don't think my mom would have been on stage had I not been the nominee. So, I mean, I get a little credit for it. But what my mom was really saying is, wow, what a great thing for me to stand on this stage when the Democratic Party is nominating a woman to be President of the United States. I mean, that's what she was saying to me. That's what she was saying to me. If you think about, here's the way kind of we look in Virginia. We're history buffs just like North Carolinians are. Here's the way we look at this thing. A Virginian said in 1776, we're going to measure the whole stake of this enterprise by equality. That's going to be the North Star. That's going to be the yardstick. Now, when he said it, he wasn't living that way. And society wasn't living that way. But it's like a sailor that navigates by the North Star. You may never get to the North Star, but you set it out there as the fixed point that you're going to go after. And so our history has been this. From the statement that equality would be the principle, we've had to knock down one barrier after the next, and we have more that we have to knock down. And the last thing we need to do is go backwards, folks. The last thing we need, and you know that in North Carolina, just like we know that in Virginia. But the sentiment my mom was conveying is from that statement that equality was going to be the goal. That was the yardstick. That's what we said about ourselves. It took 144 years before women even got the right to vote in this country. What were we thinking when we said equality mattered? But no, 144 years. It took us that long to say in 1920 that women get the right to vote. And now we're 96 years later. And we have just nominated a woman. We know we haven't had a woman president, but in Congress right now, we're doing the best job we have ever done in women in the federal legislature, 19%. That's the best job we've ever done. Hold on for this, folks. 19% ranks the United States 75th in the world, below the global average. Iraq is 26%. Afghanistan, 28%. Number one, Rwanda, 64%. So for reasons, some of which I understand, some of which I don't, we have made it hard. We have made it hard for women to be elected to the highest positions in our federal legislature and as president. But we are about to change that. And that's why I'm so excited. That's why I'm so excited. You know, I have been in elected politics for 22 years, and I got to tell you, my career, I'm 8-0 in races, and I'm going to be 9-0 after November. But my career in politics as a strong man has been built on a foundation of support by strong women. My mother, my fantastic wife, campaign managers, campaign donors, cabinet secretaries, volunteers. Women are the majority of voters in this country. I mean, and so I said yes with an exclamation point because I'm one strong man that is excited about supporting a strong woman to be president for the first time. And I know there's a lot of strong men in this country who feel exactly the same way. Just as strong women have supported us, we're here to support a strong woman to be president of the United States. And that's why I'm so excited. You have a strong woman running for the United States Senate. I see some of these stickers. You've got Deborah Ross, who's running for the Senate. She couldn't be here today. We have done some campaigning against her. Please stand strong for her, and stand strong for some sanity in the governor's residence too, with Roy Cooper coming to be governor of Virginia, coming to be governor of North Carolina. And then the last thank you I'll say is just to my wife, Ann. We have been partners. I say, you know, wife, lover, girlfriend, my most astute critic, my most energetic supporter, great mom, great public servant in so many ways. This whole thing has been an adventure of two, and things are a lot of fun when you do them as a couple. You know, we've lived, we've laughed, we've cried, we have memories, and this is going to be a whole new chapter, I have the feeling. And so I'm so happy that she's here with me. Can you give my wife a big round of applause? So, hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I want to talk just really about two things. I said I'd talk about why the campaign matters. I want to talk about two issues and then do a little bit of how we win this thing. And the two issues, I want to talk about jobs, and I want to talk about military veterans, military families. I want to talk about two. Jobs. You got to boil this down and make it simple. Donald Trump would be a "you're fired" president. Hillary Clinton will be a "you're hired" president. Okay? Is that simple enough? Is that simple enough? Let me start with Hillary and the positive. She'll be a "you're hired" president. She asked me to join her. I've been a mayor, governor, done economic development deals. I'm really into creating opportunities, creating jobs for folks. Hillary has a 5-point plan that is our 5-point plan to start the economy. Judy talked about it in the first 100 days. This is going to be priority one, pushing Congress to enact legislation that will be the biggest jump start in jobs since World War II, and it's got 5 pieces to it. And Hillary even gives you the details. The other guy just says, well, we'll be great, believe me. I mean, is there anybody here who believes one word that Donald Trump says? No. But Hillary gives you the details, so I'll be quick about it. Point one is investments in the economy of tomorrow. Infrastructure. Let's build roads, rail, airport, ports, broadband, electricity grid. I know I'm speaking to your legislators and local officials here. When you do infrastructure projects, you hire people today, and that's great, and then you live off the investment because it raises the platform for your success for decades to come. That's number one. Investments in advanced manufacturing. Virginia, we see manufacturing coming back. North Carolina too. It's different. It's a lot of equipment. Some of the plants don't have as many workers, but there are advanced manufacturing opportunities. We got to push them, especially in North Carolina, where you have really built up an expertise in renewable energy, wind and solar, some great projects in this state. The new manufacturing and the new energy economy of tomorrow. We'll invest in that. You've got great research institutions here. As much as a Virginian hates to admit it, I mean, there's some fantastic universities here that do tons of great research. We got to invest in research because that spins off economic activity. So that's point one. We're going to make investments. Point two, we're going to share prosperity. Profit sharing plans. Let's make it easier for companies to share the prosperity of their success, not harder. And let's make it hard for companies, to people at the top, to take the money and ship jobs overseas. No, let's make sure we're not giving them tax benefits that they can take overseas, but give patriotic companies benefits who keep their patriotic investments right here in this country. That's point two, shared prosperity. That's the way I grew up. I grew up in a business household. Hillary did too, small business. She had a family drape and fabric printing business. My dad ran a shop with 5 to 7 ironworkers and welders. And he was management and they were the union. But he didn't say it's management against the union. He didn't say it's the boss against the employees. He said it's shared prosperity. He would teach my brothers and me, my great welders will put you boys through school. And then he would say, and my business skills will put my workers' kids through school. So shared prosperity, things like making sure workers have the rights that they need and making sure that we pay equal for equal work. I mean, what a fancy concept that is, right? Shared prosperity. Point 3 is we've got to do much better on education. The Governor Hunt, he knows this. You start early. I went to a church sermon once where it said it's easier to build a child than repair a man. Start early. Saves a lot of challenges on the back end, promotes a lot of success. You go pre-K to smart curricular work and letting teachers in school districts have the flexibility and creativity they need to do the best job for their student in the way they see fit. Not a lot of top-down stuff. We can make college debt-free in this country. We can do this. Other nations do, and we can too. We can do it. And expand opportunities in a significant way for apprenticeships and the career and technical training like my dad's workers got. So that's the third point, education. Fourth point is trying to make the whole life-work balance thing work out. I talked about equal pay for work a little bit. Secretary Clinton's got something good on to make it easier for people to afford child care. Some people are paying 20 to 30% of their income for child care. We should not have to pay more than about 10% of the income for child care, so a child care tax credit really helps with this. And then another thing that really helps is the minimum wage. We haven't raised the minimum wage in too long, and that will help families succeed. And if I could just take a minute on that, I know sometimes we talk about raise the minimum wage and there's applause line. We move on to the next thing. I'm going to be real plain about why this matters to Hillary and why this should matter to all of us. In this country right now, what do we tell people growing up? We tell kids, our children, work hard. That's the key to success. Work hard. You know, hard work is the key. Hard work is the key. But if you work full-time for minimum wage, and a lot of people do, and about 65% of minimum wage workers are women, if you do that, and you have one or two dependents, you will be below the poverty level. So think about that for a minute. We tell, you know, work's important. We really want you to work hard. But if we say that, but we have a policy that will put you in the poverty level if you do that, if you follow it, if you work hard, then our words ring hollow. We don't really mean what we say. If we value work, and if we value workers, and if we value families, then we ought to have policies like a livable minimum wage that show we value it and enable people to live in a decent and dignified way. In a decent and dignified way. And then the last piece of the jobs plan that Hillary has is here's how we're going to pay for it. Because you can't just say it's smoke and mirrors. And so she says, we will have to have higher taxes on some to pay for it. And what we'll do, as we've come out of the recession, there's been a lot of growth, but the growth has been kind of at the top. It's not been spread. We haven't created that economy that works for everybody. To do the things that will create an economy that works for everybody, we need to go to sort of higher income individuals, very successful financial institutions and companies, and have them pay a little bit more and invest those in the first four priorities. And guess what? If we do, they're going to do better too. Because everybody does better with an economy where there's prosperity and opportunity and ladders of success that everybody can climb. The whole society does better. Now, that's your hired plan, folks. Donald Trump has a different plan, and he tends, again, not to give you too many details. He just says, believe me. But recently, and I am not going to ask you to believe me, you know. Donald Trump says, believe me all the time. We're going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it, believe me. We're all going to be rich, believe me. We're going to beat ISIS so fast, believe me. I mean, believe me, that's all you can do. I mean, come on. You got to tell people how. So I'm not asking you to believe me on the you're hired versus you're fired. I'm going to tell you what a very savvy independent organization says. Moody's Analytics. They are the best economic analysis firm in the country. They're not Democrats. The chief economist, Mark Zandi, was John McCain's head economist in 2008. They looked at the Clinton plan. They looked at the Trump plan. Here's what they found. If you put the Clinton plan in effect by the end of her first 4-year term, we will have added more than 10 million jobs to this economy and be in a persistent and strong recovery. I told you she'll be a you're hired president. She'll be a you're hired president. On the other hand, you put the Donald Trump plan into effect, by the end of the first term, we will have lost 3.5 million jobs, and we will be in a, quote, lengthy recession. Folks, he's going to be a you're fired president. We cannot afford to hand it over to your fire guy. And my prediction is this: when this campaign is over and people have forgotten everything about Donald Trump's losing presidential campaign, the two words they will remember about Donald Trump is you're fired, right? That's what we know about him. That's what we know about him. Now I want to talk about our military families, our vets, our Guard Reserve, our DOD civilians, our military contractors. It's a big, big family. And what Ann said is true. With Bragg, with Lejeune, with Poe, you have so many assets here. North Carolina is a state that is so committed to the nation's military mission, and we are too. With the Pentagon, with the biggest naval base in the world, with Quantico, where all Marine officers train, we're the same way in Virginia. And maybe I feel this one a little extra, having a kid in the military. It's rare. There's only 2 senators who do. I feel this a little bit extra. Hillary Clinton was on the Armed Services Committee when she was a senator and I was governor. And she made working for military families the heart of her work on that committee. And I'm now on that committee, and I talk to Republicans who say, Hillary, she was a great committee member. She was fantastic. Don't quote me on it. I can't say this in front of, but she was fantastic. People thought when Hillary came to the Senate, she'd been First Lady, so that was kind of odd. They thought, maybe she'll be kind of a celebrity. No, to the contrary. She was master the homework, master the details, get down in it, really focus on it, and she made big strides on military families issues. She made that a key thing. And I'll tell you, a whole lot of things that she's going to do. Our plan for military and veterans, one of the main things is we're going to make sure, absolutely, we protect and expand and fortify the GI Bill. It's one of the greatest things this nation has ever done. And my Virginia Senate predecessor, Jim Webb, did the second version of the GI Bill for the Iraq and Afghan war vet that even does some additional benefits, not just for military families. We're going to make sure that we are preserving that, and we got to absolutely fight for it. We know that we have to continue the upgrade of the VA. When President Obama came into office, the VA was still operating off paper records. They didn't even have a computer system that would work, that would communicate. If you were trying to get, as a veteran, if you're trying to get a GI Bill benefit and you would apply, I want to get tuition for this college, you would have to apply, and they'd have to mail it to Buffalo to get, approval, instead of just put it in and press send on the computer and get an answer right away. It was a completely antiquated system. And we've seen a lot of challenges in the VA. People who, it takes too long for them to get their disability approved. It takes too long for them to get a medical appointment. And Hillary Clinton is absolutely rock solid that we've got to continue and accelerate reforms to the GA. We're not backing away from this nation's commitment to our veterans and the VA system through any kind of risky privatization or anything like that. We're going to focus on it. We're going to invest in it. We're going to improve it, because that's what we have promised, and that's what we owe. We got to focus on the realities of the lives that military families lead. How many in the room are veteran, active, Guard Reserve, or military family? Raise your hand. Okay, well, this is darn near, half or more of the room. Military families have a huge challenge. Here's one thing we can't do, really. We can't make military service easy. It's always going to be hard. It's always going to be hard. But we can make the life of military families a little bit easier. We can lift their burden a little bit, and that's what Hillary and I are set to do. We want to make sure that we can look at things like paid family leave, minimum wage that I talked about earlier, with 65% of minimum wage earners being women, focusing on making child care more accessible, and even think about better ways to take family considerations into account when doing assignments for military deployments. That's the kind of thing that we can do. A lot of agencies of our government do it, and we can do that better. We have to make sure that we're providing appropriate mental health treatment. I think, for a long time in society, and military is no different, it's a microcosm of society, there was a stigma about seeking mental health treatment in a lot of society. And maybe in the military it's been a little bit more. And how heartbreaking is it to see the stories about military or veteran suicides? How heartbreaking is that? Or to see the stories that we used to see, we've gotten a little bit better, about the Iraq and Afghan war vet and the unemployment rate among that group of people being higher than the national average. This is about providing that service after the military is done and making sure on mental health and job training we're doing what we can to support our military and military families. That's why I introduced the Troop Talent Act, Judy, as my first bill, because I wanted to make sure that we gave people that traction to get into a civilian workforce and just be as successful as you've been and others have been right out of the gate. I was proud to do that bill and get a lot of it passed as part of the Defense Authorizing Act in 2013. So there's a lot we can do, and Hillary and I are going to do it. This is an issue of passion for us. It's an issue of commitment. Now I want to get over to the other side. I will say this. Donald Trump says he's going to be a good guy for the military. He says, I'll be great for the military. Donald Trump says, I'll be great for the vets. Can I just break that down for a second with you? On the military side, Donald Trump says, I'm going to be great for the military. Donald Trump repeatedly during the Republican debates and since has said, quote, the American military is a disaster. The American military is a disaster. This is the guy who wants to be commander-in-chief. I don't think in the history of the United States there has been a major party nominee who has talked with such disrespect about the military. There are 2 million young men and women who volunteer in a time of war to serve as active guard and reserve. They do it knowing that they could get killed or hurt, or so could their friends. We need a commander-in-chief who will not talk about them with contempt and disrespect, but will talk about them with respect and compassion and support. Anybody who says the American military is a disaster is unfit to be commander-in-chief. Unfit. He's unfit. And folks, that's not the worst thing he said. That's not the worst thing he said. How about making fun of John McCain for being a POW? He said, I don't consider him a hero because he got captured. Could you be more thick-headed, insensitive, or ignorant than that? It's unbelievable that those words would come out of anybody's mouth, much less the mouth of somebody who wants to be commander-in-chief. Or how about the way he took after that Virginia family, the Kaine family, who got up at the convention in a very powerful moment, challenged him for turning his back on some values like freedom of religion, and then he started to go after them. Going after a Gold Star family, I gotta believe in North Carolina that's viewed the same way it's viewed in Virginia. That is not the kind of person that we need in office. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me make a comparison. The Kaine family, they did stay up and they challenged Donald Trump. They challenged him. The week before in Cleveland, they paraded one person after the next up to challenge Hillary Clinton. Families who were grieving because they lost people in the raid in Benghazi, they put them on stage and they let them trash Hillary Clinton. Did Hillary Clinton turn her attention from the campaign trail to direct her anger and her fire at grieving family members who have every right to grieve? Of course not. That's not what a president does. It's not what a president does. And Donald Trump is not ready to be president. And how about vets? What's his policy on vets? He says, I'll be great for the vets. But when it comes to the VA, he says he wants to put the VA on a path to privatization. Now, when that happens, that usually means then the bean counters take over, and it becomes less about providing the service and more about saving a few bucks. We got an obligation. We got to meet the obligation. And it can't be turned into some scheme where we're going to figure out how to try to save a few bucks. It's got to be about the service. And I'll tell you something else about Donald Trump and the military. Last Friday, Hillary Clinton released her 2015 tax return, and Ann and I released 10 years of our taxes. 10 years. 10 years. Now, I did get your permission for that, didn't I? Okay, I was just making sure I'm not in trouble for releasing 10 years of our taxes. Why does that matter? Well, you know Donald Trump isn't releasing his taxes. Every president, even to include Richard Nixon, who wasn't known as the most ethical and transparent of presidents in recent history, have released taxes. How does this connect in with this veterans thing? Here's the way it connects. Donald Trump repeatedly through his life has bragged, I use every trick I can to avoid paying taxes whenever I can. And there have been a couple of years where because of casino applications that he was putting in, he had to release taxes in the 80s and 90s. And in those years, a couple of them, they showed he paid absolutely no federal taxes, none. So you're telling me you're going to be great for the vets, and you're telling me you're going to be great for the military. But during your entire professional life, you bragged about how little you paid in taxes. What is it that supports the military? What is it that supports our vets, our military families, our social services, mental health? It's patriotic American citizens who may not love taxes, but they understand that's part of the social compact. That's part of what connects us to each other. So if you spent your whole life trying to get out of paying anything, you can't come and parachute in and tell me now you're going to be great for the military and great for the vets when you've been stiffing them your entire professional life. That's why this matters. That's why this matters. So now let's get to the winning piece, and I'm going to conclude. We have got to win this race. It's either going to be a you're hired president or a you're fired president. It's either going to be a kids and family first president or a me first president. It's either going to be a bridge builder president or a trash talker president. It's either going to be somebody who will show you their tax return because you have a right to know whether you're Democratic, Republican, or independent, or somebody who thinks they can hide that from you. And if they're hiding that from you, who knows what else they're hiding from you. Folks, don't get tricked by Trump. Don't get tricked by Trump. So we got to win this race. And it's going to be hard. The polls are looking good right now. I'd rather be where we are than where the other guys are. I'll be honest. However, it's a season of surprises. Primaries worked out differently than people thought. Pundits proved to be wrong. The GOP nominated somebody that surprised most of us. So it's going to be a season of surprises. You have to assume that there will be more. And we live in a political climate now after Citizens United where anybody can just put $100 million in, create some group like Citizens for Freedom that you don't know who they are. They run any ad they want on TV. They say any negative thing they can. Nobody can even find out who they are to hold them accountable if it's not true. And so that's what we're going to see. It's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. Hillary's trying to do something that's never been done in the history of this country, and that's never easy. And so I think this thing's going to be hard. We're here for a reason. We think we can win. But at the end of the day, the only way we'll win is because of you. It's not going to be one more TV ad that's going to tip this thing. It's not going to be one more negative ad that's going to tip this thing. It's going to be person to person, volunteering, talking to your neighbor. People don't believe what they see on TV anymore. Maybe that's smart, but they do believe a word from a trusted friend or neighbor or somebody at their church or somebody they go to school with or a coworker. They do believe that. I hope you will think about it. I know many of you have already done this, but if you haven't yet signed up to help the campaign in the closing stretch, if you would just text together to 47246, you will be swept up in this great volunteer army, and we will make sure that Hillary wins. And we also have to have the right attitude about it. We have to have the right attitude about it. Participation is sacred. It's sacred. And I got to give you guys some props here in North Carolina. You've got a governor and legislature now that wants to make it harder for people to participate, not easier. They're rowing backward as fast as they can on things like early voting. And they're trying to put more hurdles up in the way to make it harder for you to go vote. And you are not taking that lying down. No, you brought a lawsuit against the highest officials in this state. And you told them, you will not take my vote away without a fight. And you've won that lawsuit up till now. And in fact, I used to do civil rights work in Virginia for 17 years. I worked on voting rights cases. The lawsuit in the Fourth Circuit that struck down North Carolina voting restrictions is a pretty incredible piece of writing. Often, a lawsuit like that gets resolved. A court will say, well, that restriction gets in people's way and it burdens their right to vote. It may not have been intended to do that, but that's what it does. And so restrictions get struck down for that reason. It is so rare to see in a court opinion what you saw in the opinion about the North Carolina restrictions. What the court said is that the highest officials in the state, quote, with surgical precision, tried to target and reduce the participation of African Americans in voting. And so it had to be struck down. It had to be struck down. And I saw in the paper this morning that the governor has gone up to the Supreme Court and said, no, still, we really want to do these restrictions. Supreme Court, will you let us restrict the ballot and close down access to people? I tell you, if you meet anybody on this trail who tells you, I don't think my vote matters, as you're trying to persuade them to vote for Hillary Clinton, and they tell you, I don't think my vote matters, you tell them, it matters to the other side. They are working so hard to keep you from voting. Don't let them value your vote more than you value your own vote. It is important that you turn out. It is important that you participate. North Carolina is a key battleground state. And if you do what you know how to do, if you do what you've shown you can do, come November 8th, we will make great history and elect Hillary Clinton. We will elect Deborah Ross to the Senate. We'll elect Roy Cooper governor. We'll elect Democrats up and down the ballot in North Carolina. You'll start to turn the direction of this state and march forward to progressive values. That's what's at stake. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. Thank you for having us, and have a great day. Look forward to being back.
Alright guys, that's a wrap on that Tim Kaine event. I do want to give you guys a quick heads up actually. In the last hour we had brought you Skyfox aerials of a home in Florence where there was previously a SWAT situation. This is what we know now. The residence, the home, was cleared at about 9:30 this morning and the suspect was not located. They established a possible location for the suspect in the Copper Basin community, which was about 5 miles north of the original location. So that's when deputies relocated to that neighborhood. Spotted the suspect running into a park near a school. The school was put on lockdown as a precaution. However, the suspect did not enter the school's property. Around 10:30 this morning, somewhere in that Copper Basin area, a person matching the suspect's description stole a woman's pickup truck from in front of the home. And he was last seen driving northbound on Gansel Road. They're still looking for the suspect, John Bowman, 49 years old, last seen driving a stolen 2008 Chevy pickup truck. The suspect is armed and dangerous. So that's the update regarding the SWAT situation in Florence. We just watched Tim Kaine wrap up his campaign appearance in North Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and take you guys now to a State Department briefing.
Constitutional amendment referendum. And so we would also urge the government to submit the constitutional amendments for a joint Venice Commission and ODIHR opinion as well. Yeah, please. Your turn. Go ahead.
Question.
South Asia.
Thank you, sir. Starting with India, Mark, U.S. is the most favored nation for visitations and investment in the U.S. for thousands of Indians. And now this, at least one Shah Rukh Khan keeps coming to the U.S. and complaining against the U.S. This was the third time for him last week when he was held for 4 hours at the LA International Airport. He said because his name is Khan, Shah Rukh Khan. He said he's the superstar and billionaire, maybe Indian rupees. Last time he was held at the JFK for 2 hours and then Liberty International Airport in Newark also for 2 hours. But few words which he tweeted, I cannot even say in public meeting here. But Madam Nisa Desai, she tweeted in one line, she said that, a casual sorry, even US diplomats sometimes are pulled over and screened for extra screening. So what I'm asking you is, in India, he made a big thing about this, and Indian media is saying that US apologized to Shah Rukh Khan. Is this casual sorry is apology or any comments? Because he said, why I am always pulled by the US airports?
You know what, Goyle, can I just look into it? I'm sorry, I just am not aware of I'm not trying to be, glib. I'm not aware of what happened. I need to get all the facts of this case, and I'll get back to you with an answer.
And second, just quick question about India and Pakistan.
Okay.
Both countries just celebrated Independence Days.
Yep.
And now Pakistan has invited again India for talks, conflict talks and all that. But what Indian officials in Delhi are saying that after supporting terrorism against India, and also Home Minister Mr. Rajnath was in Pakistan for the SARC meeting, which was a failure for him, or his visit was failure. And Sushma Swaraj, the Foreign Minister of India, said that we already said many times that until Pakistan stops terrorism against India, there is no way and use of talking. So you have any comments about this?
So my only comment is that, and I've said this before, is that, we would encourage greater dialogue and counterterrorism cooperation between both Pakistan and India. We've said that many times. It's for the good of both countries. It's for the good of the region. Frankly, it's for the benefit of the United States. It's important that Pakistan do the utmost to prevent terrorists from carrying out acts of terror, not just in Pakistan, but elsewhere in the region. So it's important that there's greater collaboration, greater dialogue, and we would encourage any effort in that regard.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Please do.
Yeah, your weekend did not go as planned.
Reported
at all.
that President
There were like
Obama is
barely any
considering
snaps.
new nuclear weapons policy, which includes the one that the U.S. will never use a nuclear weapon. For U.S. will never use no first use. And then
No first use, right.
the report also said the Japanese Prime Minister expressed a concern to U.S. officials because Japan is worried about the threat from North Korea. But do you have any comment on that possible new?
Well, I think we share Japan's concern about the threat of North Korea's actions. Look, the president in his landmark 2009 speech in Prague talked about a way forward, a path, if you will, that would to a world without nuclear weapons. And, in the past years, this administration has achieved progress on a number of fronts in that regard, reducing our own deployed stockpiles and launchers through the New START, but also diminishing the role of nuclear weapons in our security strategy and securing the Iran deal, which will help, we believe, stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons. We are always looking for additional ways to achieve progress towards the president's goal while maintaining, and this is important, a credible deterrent for the United States, our allies, and our partners. So, we've said we'll continue to review our planned modernization programs. We're going to continue to assess whether there are additional steps that we can take to reduce the role of nuclear weapons in our security strategy and pursue ways to strengthen the global non-proliferation regime further. But as I said, we're always going to maintain a credible deterrent for our friends and our allies.
Follow up on that, have there been concerns expressed diplomatically by Japan and South Korea about this proposal that the president is supposed to make before the UN General Assembly next month?
I'm not aware. That's an honest answer. Please.
I had two questions. The first one was on Gitmo. I was wondering if you can guarantee the American people that the 15 detainees released this week won't go right back out into the battlefield to fight against and target Americans, and if not, why continue to release them?
Well, good question. I think that we've talked about this before, but what's important is that anytime, so as we scale down Gitmo and hopefully one day close it all together, the detainees have been vetted through what is a very rigorous process. And I can assure you that it's a very rigorous process. Looked at all of the, whether they would return to the battlefield. Recidivism, I guess, was the terminology used. Is it 100% foolproof? Have there been no cases or zero cases of this happening? Well, no. There have been cases of it, but very few. I don't know the percentage in front of me, but it's incredibly small. By and large, these detainees that have been sent to various countries and governments who have accepted them have worked very hard to maintain surveillance of these individuals, to keep track of them, keep an eye on them, if you will, to ensure that they no longer pose a security threat to anyone, not just the American people, but to anyone. That is something that we take very seriously. These governments who take these detainees on and find them homes and resettle them also take it very seriously because it's on their home soil that these people are living. That's, I think, step one in any kind of plan to close Gitmo, where you relocate the detainees. I think security, safety of innocent civilians is foremost.
And I have one other question on
Yeah,
a
sure.
different topic. We understand there was a discussion at the State. Oh, yeah, sure.
About Gitmo thing. So, how many cases where former Gitmo detainees were actually caught in attacking or planning attacks on the United States? Do you have any record of that?
How many
incidents? You said that there were some incidents, but you don't.
Yeah, I don't.
record
There's,
of-
you know what, and I'm not trying to, but we can get you this, but the Department of Defense also puts out recidivist rates. Again, they're relatively small.
Yeah, it's a difficult word to pronounce.
It is.
Recidivism rate, in compared, let's say, to American prisoners and American prisons. I mean, how does it compare?
I don't.
In my understanding, it's a lot less.
I don't, but that doesn't sound unrealistic to me. Please.
Thank you. So we understand there was a discussion here at the State Department about the feasibility of then Secretary Clinton using a wireless earpiece or Bluetooth earpiece. This was roughly the same time period as the lengthy discussions about BlackBerry use. So was there an informal discussion or a formal request within Secretary Clinton's proposed use of a wireless earpiece or Bluetooth?
Hold on a second. I think we just got this request or this question in an hour or so ago. We're looking at it. We don't have an answer for you yet. We'll get back to you when we know more about whether, and indeed, Secretary Clinton asked for or requested to use a Bluetooth or wireless earpiece within, what I think you're talking about was within the 7th floor.
And then what's the
Mahogany Row, so-called Mahogany Row.
Is there a State Department policy on Bluetooth devices from your security professionals or anything that way then?
Well, again, we're looking into what the stated policy is. I mean, general, any kind of Bluetooth, security assessment, whether any kind of device, whether it's a phone or, as I said, a Bluetooth earpiece, might be used as a way to gain access to information or listen in on conversations. But I don't have a clear, definitive policy for you. We'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Please.
The Washington Post has a big story that you have doubtless seen that lays a lot of responsibility on the White House for the messy situation in Iraq today. That after 2012, when the U.S. troops withdrew, it pressed for extensive cutbacks in State Department programs slated for Iraq, over objections of both the military and the State Department with negative consequences. Do you concur in that assessment? And if not, why not?
I'm aware of the article. I mean, look, it's a very lengthy piece and lengthy analysis. I guess in answer to your question, I would say that, I can acknowledge that our security relationship is fundamentally different than it was, than the one we had with Iraq prior to 2011. We all know that. The majority of programs that were run by the Department of Defense weren't impacted as much by budget cuts as they were by the fundamental change in our security cooperation with Iraq, as well as the departure of thousands of Department of Defense personnel. And I think that they can probably speak in greater detail to those programs or the effect or ramifications of those programs being closed or shut down or scaled back. It also should be noted that the government of Iraq also had a say in all of these decisions. They are a sovereign country, as I mentioned previously. So there were Department of State programs, for instance, that they were not in favor of supporting at that point in time, or at that time. I also think with regard to our general focus or how we're targeting or going about pursuing a strategy to root out terrorist networks in Iraq, we're doing it in a different way. And we've talked a lot about that. I mean, how we're going after ISIL and Daesh in Iraq right now is that we are working through the government of Iraq to build up the capabilities of Iraq's forces to destroy, dismantle ISIL, to rebuild these communities, and to provide for the security of the Iraqi people going forward. That's a hard thing to do, harder than just putting a lot of U.S. troops on the ground in some ways and going after ISIL and Daesh, but it's an important thing to do because ultimately this is about, enabling Iraq to provide for its own security. And we've seen on the battlefield, Iraq's forces, security forces, have shown that they have the ability, and we've seen it with Kurdish forces as well, the ability to defeat ISIL, to remove them, and then in places where we've seen them rebuild communities that have been devastated by ISIL. As I said, this is a long-term strategy, but it's one we have to do in conjunction with the Iraqi government, and we have to succeed at if we want Iraq to be able to, frankly, stand on its own 2 feet going forward. Please.
Back to the emails.
Sure.
Just a couple of clarification points. So are you able to say the number of emails that the FBI will be turning over to Congress as part of
Turning over to Congress. I don't think I do have that. I apologize. Sorry for the awkward pause as I look through this. Dramatic pause. Thank you. I don't. We'll try to see if we can get you a firm number on that.
So it would not be the entirety of the thousands of Clinton emails that...
Well, no. And again, my understanding is that these are not just Clinton emails. These are emails from other individuals and sources that haven't been out there yet. So it's not just, these are not unseen Clinton emails. These are from different sources, different individuals. I don't know how to put it.
And going back to the Judicial Watch,
Sure.
earlier in August, you had released a statement saying that these documents would be made public as part of your legal obligation. So, as far as the Clinton emails that were originally procured by the FBI that were then handed over to the State Department, so will those still be made public?
I'm sorry, so just to clarify, you're talking about, right, the thousands of documents that the FBI provided. We have agreed to produce to Judicial Watch any emails sent in her official capacity. We are still trying to come up with a decision on how we'll, or whether we'll release them publicly, as we did with the 55,000.
So it is now a question as to whether it would be up to Judicial Watch as to whether or not they were to become public.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, not, look, I mean, we're still assessing, I guess is how I'd put it at this point. We have voluntarily agreed to produce to Judicial Watch these emails, and we've made that in a court filing last Friday. But in answer to Brad's question, which is, are we going to put them up on state's FOIA website like we did with the previous 55,000? We're still trying to assess how or if we're going to do that.
Yemen?
Yemen, sure.
On yesterday, there was the question was asked on the bombardment of the hospital operated by Doctors Without
course,
Borders
yeah.
and the school. I wonder if you have received any word from the Saudis that they have begun conducting an investigation or where the situation is.
Well, certainly, and I think we spoke to this yesterday, we strongly urge all sides to end these kinds of offensive military actions in Yemen. We express our condolences to the victims' families of yesterday's horrible attacks, or airstrikes, rather. Goes without saying that civilians are the most vulnerable victims of any conflict, and we're always concerned by civilian casualties, and especially in this case, in this conflict. In terms of, we have obviously expressed our concerns to the Saudi-led coalition. We've urged them, as I said, to cease all military action. The only solution to Yemen's challenges, as we have said many times, is through peaceful dialogue. So we reiterate our calls for the Saudi-led coalition to take all feasible measures to protect civilians, while also ensuring accountability and avoiding future civilian harm. As I don't think there's an update on yesterday's statement that we said that the Saudi-led coalition has announced it will conduct an investigation. I would just add that we would urge them to do it very quickly and to release their findings publicly. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Oh,
one more on Yemen.
one more, sorry.
Do you have any response to a bipartisan group of senators who have expressed their concerns about the continual sale of arms to Saudi Arabia, given these civilian casualties?
I mean, look, I mean, I haven't seen the letter, so I'm hesitant to respond to it, except to say that, any defense or security products that we give to or sell to Saudis, as with any country, are under the end-use protocols that always look at and monitor usage of them.
Than defensive weapons to Saudi Arabia. Is that, I mean, fighter jets are purely defensive.
Sorry,
missiles.
security materials. Apologize.
Mark, did you get any update from UN on South Sudan?
No, I don't believe so, T-Jenner. Let me just look very quickly. Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to. I think we're pretty much where we were yesterday.
Okay.
But let me just very quickly look here. I mean, all I can say is that we've raised this incident and our concerns with senior officials in the UN Department of Peacekeeping Operations and the Secretary General's staff, and we're going to continue to seek clarification on the UN's response to the incident on July 11th. We'll continue to pressure the UN to improve security for all unmissed personnel as well as NGO workers and civilians. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on the State Department briefing. We will be back with more news now at 1 o'clock today. Mike Pace will be joining you then.